Hola, hello everyone. Thank you for coming. First of all, to this talk, having that nice Uber and hype talk in the other room. Merry Christmas to everyone, and I'm really glad to be here on the stage talking about how we work in Mercadona Online and how we release our apps, trying not to die trying. Well, first of all, I would like to introduce myself. For those who doesn't know me, my name is Escudero, and right now I'm leading the mobile part in the Mercadona Tech. Actually, Mercadona Tech is not Mercadona, but we are inside Mercadona, but we are completely split from the traditional part of Mercadona. And for those that are from outside of Spain, Mercadona is the biggest grocery retail here in Spain. And what we are doing the revamp of its e-commerce solution. We are based in Valencia, and we are opening time by time all the cities in Spain. So what is the mission? What is the goal of this talk? What I want to achieve? Well, basically, what I want to tell you guys is how we work in Mercadona Tech as a single team, because we work both iOS and Android teams together. The reason is how we can update our apps in a safely, automatically, and continuously way. And that's what we are doing right now. This is what we are actually building up from 3 years that we have been working on Mercadona Tech. Before we start, just a question. How many of you have updated their apps in the last month? Well, that's quite a few, nice. And about, just once. And about those, how many in the last 2 weeks? Well, that's nice too. But the most important question is, how many of you have been afraid to do so? Well, not bad. Well, that's raising a little bit more hands. Well, that's the goal basically of this talk, how we can make sure to not being afraid to do so, how we can actually update our apps and in a safely way. And as many as you know, Martin Fowler, I don't know if you know him physically, I hope so. If not, well, I'm pretty sure you know who he is. He describes the continuous delivery as a set of principles, practices to reduce the cost and time and the risk of delivering new features, new changes to our final user that give value. And why is it important? Why does it matter? Well, basically, if you reduce the time, you are reducing the cost, because less time, more features that you are going to release, less people that you are going to need to do things to make those releases. Why do you reduce the risk? Well, it is very easy. As long as you keep updating your app very frequently with very small chunk of code, it is less likely that you introduce a bug, that you introduce a crash. Why is that? Very easy. If you don't touch any line of code, you won't have anything to be changed. You won't have any risk of doing so. If you change hundreds of thousands of lines of code, you are more likely to introduce something else. So that's why it's important. And what is incremental? Because there is always something new that we are giving to our users. There is always something that our users are going to see. So that's the key point. But, okay, it looks very nice. The theory looks very nice. Let's see what other platforms are doing, such as, for example, web, such as backend. Well, the first thing that they do is they create a new functionality. It doesn't matter which functionality it is. Let's say a new endpoint, let's say a new refactor, let's say a new view. It doesn't matter. They just do it. They release those changes. Once they are released those changes, they are available to everyone, to almost everyone. Why is that? Because you don't have a third-party dependency like native apps does. And not just that. Once they release the changes, everyone is going to be using that production code already. They don't have to do anything else to use that code. For example, if you are consuming an endpoint, you don't have to do anything else. You just have to keep using that endpoint, And if everything has changed, the response, the API, whatever, you are going to see that at the moment. Or in the case of the web, if you have a new screen, you just open the web again, and the new functionality is there. The new screen is there. You don't have to actually download the code for it. You don't have to do anything else to do that. So yeah, that actually looks very nice, looks very cool. It actually follows very well the principles. And well, at least in theory, it works. But what about the rest of us? What about mobile? Well, maybe let's try to see if we can follow the previous path. First, we create a new functionality. It doesn't matter what it is, a screen, a refactor, a new metric, whatever it is. Then we release the changes. I'm not going to talk into details about what it is releasing the changes. Generating the APK, provisioning, whatever. And then the changes are available immediately. Well, no, that's not the case for native apps. The changes are not available immediately. Why? Because you have a third-party dependency. In the case of Android, you have Google. In the case of iOS, you have Apple. And you have to wait for them to approve your changes. We are here at Raycon. We love Android so much. And Android is much better than iOS in this case. It won't take more than a few hours. An hour, almost even minutes, 2 hours. It is, let's say, reasonable time. The case of iOS is even much worse. You could take days for them to approve those changes. But not just that. What if they just don't want to approve them? What if they just reject them because they change their guidelines, whatever reason? I'm pretty sure you have been there and you have been fighting against them, saying, why are you denying my changes? I have done anything else. Well, it happens. And not just that, that is the big problem. The biggest problem is that your user won't use your code immediately. They have to do some extra action. They have to do something else in order to use that code. So even if you have, in the case of Android and iOS, you have automatic downloads, still you have to be connected to a Wi-Fi, still you have to be connected to the electricity power. And even though you have to have this storage, maybe you just don't want to download a new version of your app. Maybe you are a hater, whatever. What you end up with is having a very wide range of users having a very old functionality. So yeah, that's a huge problem, and this is your face. It's like, really? Do we really have to fight each other? Why don't you make that much more easy? What is it that's so problematic? But the problem doesn't come when you want to have a new screen that is very fancy, when this animation, this new button. What if you have really a bug? That's where the problem comes. Let's see what, for example, web could do. Well, they do a rollback. So let's try to do a rollback. No, a rollback won't work. You could actually upload an older version of your code, but you always have to update your build and your version number in order for Apple and Google to accept your changes. So basically, you fix it, you release the changes. After that, you wait until it is approved, from a few hours to a few days, with having a critical bug there. And then you just hope for users to download your app shortly. And if, for example, in Mercadona, we are like having tons of orders each day. If you have a problem, for example, starting a checkout from the Android app or the iOS app, in 2 days, you are going to lose thousands of euros. And that's a problem. When your boss comes, well, this is basically your face. You don't actually know what to do. You just want to die yourself. You just want to go to home, and you just want to die. So that's a big problem. The problem with this is mobile is fragile. Mobile has a few problems that other platforms won't have, or even if you don't do native and you have web views. we have to be a little bit more careful. Why? Because we have those third-party dependencies from Apple and from Google. Actually, your users have to update all the time your new code, and that sucks. There is no magic behind that, that your user will always have the last code in production. And those bugs will last longer. You are going to have a very, very old version of your apps running. So yeah, it seems pretty scary to update our apps. Actually, if it was me, I could okay, I'm moving to web, I'm moving to backend, or I don't know, or something else. So can we actually do something better to make it safer? Can we do anything at all? Well, actually we do, and that's what I'm here for. I'm going to show you what we have been trying to do in Mercadona in order to solve these problems. This is what has been working for us, and it is a long path, actually 3 years already, moving and changing this kind of stuff. And we could split this thing in 2 groups. One is actually technological stuff for mobile, and the first thing is something that we call the twin culture. That is something that might look strange, but it actually works. The culture it is not taught by someone. It is not given by someone. It is built up from the bottom of your team. It will evolve. It will evolve a lot, and you have to adapt to it. You cannot force someone to learn that culture. And there is, well, I'm kind of a freak of Batman, and I really like one part of the first movie where Mr. Wayne is having a really rough time because all his legacy is building apart, and Alfred is there supporting him. Let's see it. Well, that's basically what I really love about my team and what we have been trying to do, and it is no blaming. Why do we fall? To learn to pick ourselves up. That's the thing. You are going to pass, you are going to have moments, a very rough moments, and you will see that everything is falling apart, that you cannot believe the whole, and that you are really making no progress. Well, having someone there to support you, to take care of you, is going to mean a lot. It doesn't matter if you put if you are the one who are putting a bug in production. When a Mercadona user is going to do the groceries and the app crashes and the app doesn't work, actually he or she is not going to blame you exactly. He's not going to blame someone specific. Is going to blame a team, the Mercadona. The one that is going to look bad is Mercadona. It's our own team. So it doesn't matter whose fault it is. Don't point fingers. Just try to support each other with that. Actually, it is very, very normal. It is absolutely normal to introduce bugs, to introduce mistakes, to introduce errors. Even the most experienced engineer is going to do so. You will do so, I will do so. Everyone, and it is completely normal. The key point is actually not to introduce those bugs. It's to recover fast enough, to have something else to do, and to learn from those mistakes. Learn, learn, and recover. The time that you take to recover from a bug, from a crash, from a mistake, it is what really is important, not introducing them. So basically, trust your teammates. Your teammates are there. You are not the only one alone. Well, you could be working alone, and this doesn't make any sense, of course. But in our case, we are a product team that are going to work for many, many years, and that we are evolving. We are growing so fast and so big. So teach them, don't point fingers to them. Just learn to recover from those mistakes and work as a team. Because actually, even if you introduce something that is not well enough, you are not the only one that they are doing that code. You are going to have a pull request. You are going to have pairing. You are going to have many things that other people are going to see. So it's not only your fault. It's a team fault, and that's very important. And the last thing about our culture is that we don't have QA. By QA, I don't mean the traditional QA. We actually have a QA team, but they don't work as we are used to know them. Why is that? Because having a traditional QA team means that some other team is going to be seeking those mistakes. So you can just put your code, because some other team, someone else, is going to take care of those errors. That's why we don't believe in the traditional QA. We have actually a very definition of done, and every engineer is responsible for their own code, and that's very important. If the code is not complete enough, it has his definition of done, his functionality, his test, it is well tested, and so on. It is not done. So that's why we don't have a QA. And also, if we want to follow the continuous deployment, having something telling you that you can actually deploy, well, we are breaking that kind of methodology. And after that, we have mobile techniques. Well, these are more common, and I guess many of you know, because they are very common in software development. But again, these are the techniques that have worked better for us. It doesn't mean that they are perfect. It doesn't mean that they follow the theory in all the internet, all the nice posts, all the hype out there. It is what has been working for us. And the first one is the test that work the best for us. And the first one are the unit tests. Well, we actually love them. We have, I don't even know how many, but around more than 2,000. And we really, really love them. Why so? Because they are very fast to run. They are very fast to test if something fails. And also they are very fast to be implemented. The big problematic that we have is when something changes, when the code changes, when there is a refactor, even though we are not testing our implementation, we are always testing our behavior from the outside. We actually do TDD and BDD. Even if you change, for example, from Java to Kotlin or from some other architecture, you are going to break all of them. They are not going to be valid at all. But it is very easy to cover all the corner cases that might happen. And why is that? Because they are very isolated. We mock everything from the outside. So it is very easy to cover all the cases that might happen. In our case, we use JUnit for Android as well as Mockito. And for iOS, I know this is AndroidCon, just for me. Sorry, DroidCon. We use Nimble. And for our mocks, we just do ourselves. The next one that we really love are the end-to-ends. Well, some of them call them integration, end-to-end, doesn't matter. For us, are end-to-end. And if we really follow the testing pyramid, well, we actually should only have a few of them. But that's not the case. We actually have many of them. Well, yeah, that's controversial, I know. But why is that? Well, because they actually provide us with a high security for us. For example, we started last year migrating from Java to Kotlin. We are actually in a 90% of code in Kotlin. And not just that, we moved from one architecture, from many layers to another different architecture. And you know what? Since they don't touch the implementation of the code, they only touch the XML, they only touch the interaction, the buttons, we didn't have to touch any one of them. So the first thing that we did was, okay, how can we make sure that even we keep giving new functionality to the app? How can we keep moving from Java to Kotlin? Well, this is the solution, end-to-end test. We started creating many of them just because of that refactor. And it actually worked perfectly. Every time that we had something broken, the end-to-end were there to save us. Well, they are very hard to maintain. And they are very hard to create. Why? Because you have to be very aligned with your backend team. It is not that easy. Basically, what they do is they follow the path that a user will do from the start of your application, from the start of when they download the app. They could start adding items to the cart, they could start creating a checkout, placing an order, receiving an order, modifying that order, and that's what really brings us security. But to do that, we have to have a production environment, but actually not touching production database. So yeah, they are very hard. And how we do that? Where? We start a Docker image app, we populate with many fixtures, we populate with many migration, and then we just start mimicking the touch of the button from the users, from very long path from the start to the end. What is the problem? Well, when any of them fails, it is very hard to see what has failed. The simulator freeze, the simulator won't start up, Docker might just be broken, we don't know why, a test might be broken, or maybe backend has changed something else. But the security that they bring us is unbelievable. And not just that, for the backend team, every time the backend team commits to master, they actually run all the end-to-end for our 3 clients, web, Android, and iOS. So we are actually very safe. For our case, we use Espresso for Android in order to be able to touch the buttons, for the UI. And for iOS, we use Earl Grey. The next thing that we don't really use that much are UI tests. We have tried them, but we don't really use them. Why? Because for us, it doesn't matter if a button is misaligned or is out of position. What we really matter is that a user can actually make the purchase, can actually have the order in their home. That's what really matters. The trade-off about creating them and the trade-off about having to maintain them and the results that they gave, for us, I repeat, for us, it is not worth it. And the last one are the sanity tests. These are not really technical, and these are actually not really being used that much anymore. But before we had the end-to-ends, we had this kind of test. Well, this test is basically just a sheet with a flow that you have to follow manually. I mean, just taking your phone, going step by step, and doing so. Why don't we use them anymore, or a lot less? Because we have the end-to-end ones that are actually what they are mimic is exactly the same. But we're still having them also because we are moving from, as I said, Java to 100% Kotlin. The next thing that we use is feature flags. Well, the feature flags are not really that common in the mobile ecosystem. They are much more common in web and in backend. But we have started using them like, I don't know, a year ago or many months ago. And they have their place. Why so? Well, basically, just a brief explanation about them. It chooses between two or more paths. Let's say you have this new screen that you are not very sure that it might break. You are not very sure if it is going to work correctly. Well, you just put a feature flag, You just start with all the user using the old code. Another part of the code is using basically any else. And then you keep incrementing the percentage of the users that are going to see, that are going to consume that new code. If something breaks, you quickly see that something is not working as expected, you are receiving crash or receiving whatever it is. You don't have to upload a new version again. You just, from backend, you just cancel that percentage and everyone goes to the old code again. The problem is that you have to add a lot of boilerplate code. And for testing, it's very hard because you always have to keep using that if-else path. But well, we have been using them. We actually have some of them. And in order to use them, you can just use a backend service or your own service as long as it's written a dictionary with a key value parameter. In our case, we use Firebase for that, but with remote config, if I'm not mistaken is the name. But you can use whatever you just want for them. Okay, and these techniques are before releasing the update, but what happens when we release that update? Well, our way to update in our apps is called the trains, and that's why the talk is called about trains. What is a train exactly? It is not something new that we have invented. It is something that is using for other teams, and basically it mimics the trains in the real life. Well, a train, a subway, or whatever you kind of train you want to talk about, stop in a station and pick people up. If you by any means arrive a little bit later, well, the train has left and you just have to wait for the next one. That's a methodology for our deployment. The difference is that the train is our release and the people is all the code that we have in our master branch. How do we do release? Well, we do release our train pass once every 2 weeks. Once morning, Monday, every 2 weeks. So we have our train is always 15 days apart. Always 15 days apart. If you have put just one functionality, well, just one functionality. If you have just put one refactor, well, one refactor, the user won't see anything else. If you have put a lot of things, well, they will see a lot of things. It doesn't matter. Every Monday, every 2 weeks, is going to be released. And also here you may see something strange that is about the master branch. Well, in mobile, or at least in the past, where I have been working on, normally we work with develop branch and master branch. And why is that? Well, we have our develop branch, all the new functionality comes from that branch. We start doing things. We merge back to develop. And when we want to do a release, well, we put it to master. And then we keep it doing in develop. So we are sure that whatever is in master is in the store, whatever is in develop, it is ahead of that store, of the app store. But if we are saying that we are sure that every commit, every pull request, everything that we do, it is already done, it is working, we are sure that it's working, has its test, it is proof, and then why are we having two different branches? Why not have one single branch? Well, that's what we do. It doesn't matter where it is there. It doesn't matter what we commit in master. We are sure that everything that is in master is production ready. So it doesn't matter to have another branch. But you may say, okay, what about hotfixes? We normally, you have the master branch to have your hotfixes, but then you have your develop branch with more stuff, then you create something from master and you merge it back to master, and then you release that branch again. Well, if we are saying, again, that everything, that it is there, that we have completed, is production ready, even if the user is not gonna consume it because we have feature flags. Well, a hotfix is basically a new train. It is nothing different than that. It is a new train. The only difference is that instead of using that Monday, we use some other day. What if that is master have new functionality? Well, new functionality. It doesn't matter. We are giving value to the user. And releasing again every Monday, every week, every 2 weeks might be kind of tedious because you have to generate the APK, you have to create the release notes, you have to download the sign-in, blah, 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 blah. Well, we have to automate something about it. Well, that's how we do our releases. Those 4 words. That's all we do to make our releases. Nothing else, I swear. Nothing less than that. We just run that script, and magically, the app is published in the store. Well, the app is pushed to be reviewed to the store. Nothing else, nothing more. And why is that? Well, because we actually make a heavy use of Fastlane out and Hit Action, Jenkins, and our own script. We have many scripts that take care of generating the APK or the IPA in the case of iOS, update the icons, change the bundle IDs, upgrading the version and build numbers, etc. And this is Jenkins. Well, it is not, well, I guess you can see it. This is all our states that we do every time we put something in a pull request or in master. We just have a linter, units and Android test. In the case of iOS, it's the same, but here, you don't have to start the simulator. For Android test, you have to start the simulator. Then we come the end-to-ends. As you can see, 8 minutes, but much worth it. Then we deploy to beta. This screenshot is from deploying to the App Store, not for beta. In the case of for beta, we don't have to do anything. It's just every time we commit to master. Then we deploy to the Google Play or the App Store, and that's it, nothing else. So yeah, it takes actually the click of a button to release our new version of the app. And then it is approved, it is there, it is being used by our user. What if we have problem with that? Well, phase releases. There is a huge difference between phase releases about Android and iOS, about Google and Apple. Phase releases for iOS, for Apple, sucks. It is not really a phase release. For Android, it is much better. You actually can control how much of your user are going to be able to download or to update your app. And that's huge. And if you ever found something that it might break, or that is breaking, that is crashing, that is not well, you just stop it, and no one else will be able to download or to update your app. That's actually huge. iOS doesn't work that way, and actually sucks. And how we manage that? Well, we started with every day that we had a release, the next day we will go to the Google console, we increment that percentage. We started with 2, 4, 5, until 100% in a week, exponential. And that's actually kind of very manual. Well, what we did, scripts, scripting and automatic things. We use Kubernetes, and one of our pods is starting a cron every single day, asking Google if there is an update that has phase release, that has a percentage different than 100%. If so, then it automatically increments in a way that we have put. I don't remember. At the start, that incremental is very slow, and at the end, it's like the 40, 50, and 100%, something like that. So yeah, that's basically our golden egg, to be honest, and something that the Apple team should be really doing. And the last thing that we have is the force update backup. For Android, we have never used that. For iOS, actually, we had to use it once, if I'm not mistaken, in these 3 years. And why is that? Well, basically, if something is broken, if something is bad, a nice dialog pop-ups in the middle of your application telling you that you have to update your app. You cannot do anything else. You cannot press any button. You cannot dismiss that modal. There is something there that actually looks very bad to the end user. That's why we have only used once in the case of iOS. The problem with this is that this doesn't give you more speed because you actually have to update a new version, wait for it to be approved, and then you can have this kind of stuff. How do we work this? Okay, very easy. We just have our backend team with a middleware, and they are always checking if a version is between some kind of limit in order to do that. Also, this also brings us the possibility that we remove very, very old version of our apps, 4, 5, 6 months old, and our backend team can start removing that legacy code, that legacy endpoints that they actually want to remove. So yeah, that's basically it. That's basically how we work here in Mercadona. In my case, I truly, truly believe in working as a team, iOS and Android together. We actually are. I have a team of 6 people working together, 3 Android, 3 iOS. And it doesn't really matter if they are good engineers in Android, good engineers in iOS. What I mean by being together is not about sharing code. Actually, I hate sharing code, but it is my opinion. I'm sorry. But we have a huge focus in work in the same way, together, and following the same principles. Both in architecture, actually, we use exactly the same architecture, exactly the same models, exactly the same test, exactly the same layers. We can move between Android to iOS because actually Swift and Kotlin are almost equal, and the apps are equal. They follow exactly the same principles. All our flows outside of our code is exactly the same, and we work as a team. This is not a golden era. This has problems, of course. We keep having crashes. We keep having adding mistakes and adding error in our apps. But our results are there, and we are talking that we, it's a medium, are in 99.90% of crash-free in the case of Android. In the case of iOS, it's even higher. But for iOS, that means that it is crashing once every 1100 sessions. So it doesn't really matter because if you see those crashes, are crashes that mobile devices that I don't even know they exist, or Android just crashing your app because it is how it works. So this is what it is working for us. It doesn't mean it will work for all of you guys or for every team, but we actually we have been improving a lot about this, and we have been evolving a lot about this. And actually, this is a brief overview of how we work. We could, of course, every one of those techniques go into details in a different talk. So yeah, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy, and glad to be here. I don't know if any one of you have questions. Yeah, yeah. What? So.
Several of them. You say you release every Monday. Why Monday? Why not Tuesday?
Well.
Why not Friday? Wednesday or Sunday?
Well, in our case, actually, we started releasing because there is like this controversial thing about, okay, but you don't release on Friday because you don't believe that your system is going to work. You prefer to have all the week that people is going to be in the office? Well, actually what we started doing is trying Monday all the days. And we actually saw that Apple and Google are releasing much faster that Monday instead of another day. Why? I don't know. But we have tried that and it works. I have no idea why. I guess because there are less people pushing on Monday, or I have no idea. But we could, I mean, we have been releasing some other days, so it doesn't really matter.
I mean, other thing like you just directly just push the code directly to production. I mean, you don't have any code freeze between. I mean, you just go, okay, it's Monday, we just release. If the CI say it's good, you just go directly to production. Or you have normally you have code freeze and you have 3 days of testing.
No. Whenever we release, whatever is in master, it goes to the store. It doesn't matter what it is. It goes to the store, and we keep working in different functionalities, and that's it. I mean, we don't wait if maybe this works. I mean, we have Crashlytics and all those kind of tools that through Slack and through email, we quickly see if something is it's not going very well. But it doesn't matter. We always keep pushing, no matter what.
One of the questions is like when you have a hotfix, when you make a fix, for example, and you have this Monday, you realize the fix on Wednesday, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Now you make the fix. If you go to develop and you want to put develop master to release, could it be possible that some of the code that is not ready is not behind a feature flag? How do you?
Yeah, but we don't have develop. We don't have a develop branch. Whatever it is in master branch, whatever it is has finished his pull request, and the teammates have approved that pull request, and it has been merged to master. It is there. It doesn't matter. Nobody is going to come and tell us, hey, wait with this functionality, because that functionality will go in the next week or in the next month, because we don't want it yet. That methodology doesn't work with us. We don't believe in that. We believe in this is a continuous delivery. Whatever is there is going to be to the user.
So first, how can I buy that t-shirt?
You like it?
It's very cool.
Well, I actually have no idea, but
Okay, that's fine. So you mentioned that you use Espresso for end-to-end, but then you categorize UI tests in a third bucket. What's a UI test for you?
we use
Screenshot test?
Yeah, that's it. We don't have that kind of test. I mean, we use Espresso, that is a UI framework for testing, but we use it only for following the touch of a single button. But we don't care what happens when you touch that button. You keep touching buttons, and if the button is not found, the test is broken. So that's why what we really love is the button is there. Maybe the button is smaller. Maybe the button is not blue. It has to be red. I don't know, whatever. But if you can push it, is what matters for us.
So what you don't like is screenshot testing?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I should have make a point about that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the feedback. Just wanted to say something?
My question got answered.
Okay.
I'm currently working on Idris, and we are following quite similar approach. We are releasing every single week. Do you consider the possibility to do a real continuous delivery? I mean, it's time that everything, even if it's a bug, is ready to put.
We have thought about that everything that is merged to master gets automatically released. The problem comes with iOS. We want to work as much as possible as a single team. You could have that for Android because it takes like a few hours to be approved, or even less. But for iOS, it's gonna take days. So even if you are going to make a new release for example, twice per day, you are going to actually keep pushing another thing that is not in production yet. So you are not really seeing your changes, and they could be like stacked up, and you will only see the last one. That's the problem.
Following the same approach in Android and iOS, but do you think that in this case iOS is like
Worse.
yeah, well, it works, but maybe it's not like the time in order to split a little bit the process and move, just because of the gain that you will have.
I mean, you are absolutely right, and actually, we have to think about that. But right now, what we want to achieve is to work as much as possible together, and even if we see that kind of problem, we are also a small team. We are not that big yet, so we prefer to have a nice core, a nice base before we start doing different things and splitting apart. That's why.
Sorry, we are
I will be outside if you want to say something. Thank you.